Welcome to the MFS Wellness Podcast, a hybrid structure encompassing health, fitness, self-improvement, and entertainment, where no topic is off limits and all opinions are graciously welcomed.
Let's get on with the show!
And now, here's the host of the show, Mike Sinopoli.
Welcome to the MFS Wellness Podcast. I am Mike Sinopoli, a certified nutrition coach, counselor, consultant. Call me whatever you want. You can find me over on Instagram at MFS Wellness, same handle at Twitter and Facebook. Thanks to those who listened to episode number 1 on the 5 pillars of body composition. Greatly appreciate that. And those that gave me the feedback, thank you so much. We're back here, episode number 2, to unlearn a few things. There's a lot of misinformation out there, as many people know, especially with health fitness. Many of you listening probably have been confused, throwing your hands up in the air, being like, I don't know what works. I don't know what's right for me. And that's okay. I've been there. Many have been there. And really, there is no one way for you or for me. It's kind of just putting everything together, learning different things, holding on to what works for you. But I do want to go through a list I put together of some of the most overblown aspects within the health and fitness world, nutrition and such. So I'm going to jump right into it. And the first thing that's kind of needs to be unlearned is this demonizing of carbohydrates. Now, everyone appears to be just so fearful of carbs, as if they're just going to create build this fat on you as you consume it. Like if you have a bowl of rice, you're going to gain 10 pounds of fat or something crazy like that. And all the diets out there, the fad diets, keto, Atkins, South Beach, paleo, if you go through any of those, you just really look at it. It's just a carb restriction. I mean, when you think about going on one of these diets, now, do you really, really want to do this forever? And in any diet, if you go on one, you got to think, do I want to do this forever? Or else what's the end game here? You go on a 90-day diet and restrict yourself of things that you love. What happens when you're done? You just learn how to restrict something that you like. And once that's over with, you're either going to go back to your old habits or begin binging on what you've been missing out on for the last few months or however long it's been since you stuck with the diet. So, I mean, this is not new. They've been demonizing a macro every decade, it seems. If you remember back in the 80s into the 90s, fat was demonized terribly. Everything was fat-free, low fat. It was going insane. You might remember, if you're my age, your mom had brought the Snackwells home. You might remember those cookies. Or if you're a little older than me, maybe you bought them and ate those. They were high calorie, high sugar, and but low fat or no fat. And what happened with this, we really screwed ourselves here terribly, because what happened was that they just took the fat out of all the food and they just threw sugar in. And not that sugar causes fat upon consumption, but it has a lot of calories. And those calories add up and put people out into calorie deficit, and bam, weight gain. And fat turned out not to be the enemy. So especially healthy fats, avoiding things like olive oils and avocados, totally unnecessary. So what happened was they ended up with all these processed foods, and that's where we're at now. And that's why it's turned to eliminating carbohydrates, because we started eating processed foods because that was all the refined sugars. And that's where everyone was gaining the weight. And come the turn of the century, or the millennium, I should say, in the 2000s, we started seeing the South Beach diet, Atkins, as low carb restriction. And what happened was people just ate more protein and fat by default. So they would just fill up on that a little bit more and eat less calories because they weren't eating processed foods like potato chips. Those are not satiating foods. You can just keep eating those. Food companies are designing foods to hit your bliss point. They want you to keep consuming. That is their goal. They want you to keep coming back. They don't want you to die. They want your money, but they're willing to neglect your health in order for profit. So you have to understand that that's not conspiracy. That is what's happening. Scientists are out there finding that human bliss point, so you keep eating their food. They're also going after protein right now. Vegan diets are huge right now. They're demonizing protein with this meat and these fake foods and such. So to go into the next point, veganism, is it the healthiest diet? It sounds like it is when you talk about it. But look, before I get into this, there's nothing wrong with being a vegan if you're doing it as your personal preference or for moral reasons. That's can't be argued. That is your opinion. That is your reasoning. However, for overall health, there are a lot of problems with a vegan diet. It can be healthy if you plan it right, just like any other type of eating, any other diet. But, on a vegan diet, chips, Oreos, French fries, onion rings, cereal, all of that's vegan friendly. You can eat all that. That's all processed foods, and you can overeat those significantly. Also, they're coming out with all this vegan-friendly meat replacement. I call it Frankenmeat. They want to harvest this in factories and such. Bill Gates is a big advocate for this. I don't know. It doesn't taste very great to me. It's fine. I'm glad they have that there for vegans to add some protein into their diet. It is ridden with sodium, the majority of it, so you want to be careful that you're not over-consuming that and ending up with any type of hypertension issues. And also with veganism, they're probably going to be missing out on a lot of essential amino acids because most of the essential amino acids come from animal products, meats, dairies, things like that. So they would have to combine incomplete proteins, maybe beans and rice and such, to make a complete protein for their diet. But again, that can add up a lot of carbs and a lot of calories and throw them into a calorie surplus to try to hit a protein target. So that's the story on veganism. Do it if you like it. If you don't. Eat vegetables because they're good for you. You don't have to only eat plant-based foods. So the next thing you want to unlearn a little bit is the importance of intermittent fasting. Now, what intermittent fasting is basically setting an 8-hour window or so. It could vary a little bit. And that's when you eat all your calories for the day. After that, you're not eating. So what happens here? There's nothing magical about this fast. And what happens is, especially for fat loss. Now, there's different reasonings for intermittent fasting that people think for cell regeneration and such. There's theories out there. I'm not going to go into that. I'm just talking body composition here. There is no magic for intermittent fasting. What you're doing is restricting again, just like the carb thing. You restricted carbs in what we said before in a low carb diet, but with intermittent fasting, what you're doing is just restricting time for when you're eating. So restricting when calories come in. So by default, people just are eating less and they think that it's the fasting. So that if this works for you, if this works for some people, that helps them because that restriction is good. And if they can keep that up as a lifestyle, hey, go for it. But I'm just saying, if you don't like intermittent fasting and you'd rather eat more throughout the day, go for it because there's no magic to it, not whatsoever. Another myth that everyone likes to, go for, that's been around forever, is that breakfast is the most important meal of the day and it kickstarts your metabolism. That is a load of crap, and I will tell you that 100% because I'm not a morning breakfast person. I never have been. I would not eat maybe until 11, 12 o'clock most times, and I have made every single fitness goal I needed with doing that. Now, it's okay to eat breakfast if you are a morning person that likes to eat. That's totally fine. But there's no science behind it boosting any metabolism or something you need to it. When I talk to clients, they say, I don't like breakfast. I know I should eat breakfast, but no, why do you want to eat breakfast? If you don't like it, don't do it. You don't have to. Why were you going to force food just because somebody on the internet thinks that breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Because we're going to go to this old age nonsense that about this meal. Meal timing is not that big of a deal. It really isn't. And I'll get into that later. But no, you don't need to. Don't force food. If you don't like to eat in the morning, don't. Just eat your calories that you need to do. So go that route. That's the bottom line. And then same thing goes for the next point here. Eating late causes you to gain fat. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. A calorie is a calorie whenever you consume it. Now, if you have stomach issues or something like that from eating late, then maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe it disrupts your sleep. So don't do that then in that case. But eating late is okay. I typically have a meal myself, maybe an hour or so before I go to sleep. It helps me sleep. I don't like going to bed hungry, so that's where I'm at. And one time I used to, was a funny story. I was told to drink casein protein, slow digestive protein before bed. And that's supposed to help, fuel my muscles and grow while I sleep and all that nonsense. But It's untrue. And all I ended up doing was getting up in the middle of the night and taking a piss because, that's what it did. And it disrupted my sleep, and it ruined everything from there. So don't do it. You don't need to eat late. You can eat late. It really doesn't matter. As long as you're within your calories, it does not mean anything. So that goes right into meal timing. A lot of people believe that you need to eat every 2 hours to keep your metabolism up. Not necessary at all. Same thing goes with protein assimilation. You don't need to eat X amount of protein every time you have a meal. So meal timing should be based on your personal life and what's convenient for you and what's sustainable. So, eat as you need. Your job, your kids, whatever else your schedule looks like, build your food around that. Don't eat around your life. Don't switch it up like that. You have a life, you have things you have to do. Find what works around that. Don't let the diet dictate your life, because you will not sustain it that way. And that comes to the point next here of cheat meals. Now, cheat meals is a terrible term, in my opinion, because it sounds like you're doing something bad. Cheat's a negative word. It makes us feel some guilt, some shame. The only people that really need a cheat meal are like maybe a physique competitor or something like that, someone who's really rigid doing this thing for onstage competitions. You'll see The Rock on Instagram showing his cheat meals. I want to just remind everybody, you are not The Rock. I'm not The Rock. So we can put away the cheat meal idea, just call it a higher calorie meal and go ahead and just commit to the next one being a very good meal if you're going to have something that you really like. And what fun is it to sit there in guilt and shame trying to enjoy this burger and fries or this pizza or whatever it is you might like? What good is that if you're just going to feel guilty while you're eating it, shame when you're done, and then spiral into some negative bullshit about yourself because you ate poorly? No, you just the next meal, go ahead and eat. You'll be surprised when you do this. You'll actually sustain good eating longer because you're giving yourself some leeway here and you're not being so rigid. So I would recommend just have a high calorie meal when you want to, when you think it's right. Put some value to your food. If you think it's worth it, do it. If you don't. And then nobody else can tell you otherwise. So covered in the last episode. Next point here is this endless cardio. We're kind of wired when we get motivated. We're kind of wired to just go and do and keep and move and go crazy. And we have to sweat through our shirt. We have to be breathing. We have to be near vomiting at the end, people believe. That's not the way it goes. You don't have to be balls to the wall, no pain, no gain. All that nonsense can, you shove it up everybody's ass, because that is unnecessary. Take it slow, get yourself involved in some strength training like we talked about last episode. Save the cardio, do what you like, and really put the focus in on strength training and diet. And then last but not least here, again, I covered it a bit in the last episode, is supplements. Supplements are a huge money maker. They're mostly waste of time, money, and you can get them enough nutrients through food. So you don't need fat burners, BCAAs, glutamine, all this other stuff is nonsensical. You can get it all through food, and why not? Because it's more fun to eat than take some powder, in my opinion. And it's going to save you money. That powder gets expensive, and they know it. They know it. The supplement companies. Protein powder is about 25 to 30 grams a scoop. And then they kind of came up with the idea that that's how protein assimilates, and that you need to have this every 2 hours or else that protein gets shit away. But that's not true. Your body will use as much protein it takes in to repair its muscles as needed. So as much as is needed is what it's going to use. So think about that when you're being sold supplements by some model on Instagram who wants you to take her promo code and buy her whatever else, or his garbage, whatever it might be. So that's really some of the main points that need to sort of be unlearned a little bit. The bottom line here is just focus on what you can sustain. Focus on what is realistic in the long term. So if it feels like, hey, I can't wait till this is over, I don't want to do this anymore, this is garbage, I can't live like this, I can't wait till my 21-day fix is over, my 7-day detox or whatever this nonsense is, get off of all that, diarrhea teas, all this junk that they're telling you they're cleansing you. And no, you don't need a cleanse. You don't need a detox. You need discipline, and you need to find a way of life that works for you, specifically you, not anybody else. Everyone's going to give you their opinion, even me. Everything I'm rattling off here, you might agree with some of it, maybe not. And maybe some of it doesn't work for you. And that's how it's supposed to be. It's individualized. Everything health, fitness related is individualized. And that's the way it needs. It is about you, nobody else. You can go to people for help, take some pointers, keep what sticks. So that's really everything I wanted to put out there to unlearn today. So forget, don't get so involved in anything that was just mentioned here today. Go back if you haven't and listen to episode 1 of the 5 pillars of body composition. If you're looking to lose weight, build muscle, I laid it out there what I believe is best. Please feel free to message me. Again, that's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at MFS Wellness. My email address is mike@mfswellness.com. Send over anything you want. Disagree with me, agree with me. Send me hate mail, pictures of your cat. I don't care. I welcome any sort of feedback, any sort of discussion on this stuff, and I am happy to help anybody. You have a passion for something when you would help your enemies with something, and that's what I would do for health, fitness, and nutrition. So again, I appreciate everybody for coming on here and listening and checking me out with another episode. As usual, like I just stated, let me know what I can do better. Let me know what you want to hear. And until we come back and do another, thanks again, and have a great one. Bye-bye.